Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Soul Meets Heart podcast for your soul. Today's guest works with women who look like they may have it all together, the ones holding everyone up, anticipating everyone's needs, managing every room they walk into. And she helps them see that what looks like strength from the outside is actually often quiet exhaustion on the inside. My guest is a personal growth coach who works primarily with women between 35 and 65 who are stuck in what she calls overfunctioning, which could be chronic people pleasing, emotional caretaking, self abandonment. Her own healing journey started back in '06 and has taken her through naturopathic medicine, nervous system work, somatic awareness, and a lot of sitting with things that she had spent years avoiding. She runs an online community called Becoming You, Stop Overfunctioning, and Reconnect to Yourself. Please welcome Nina Thiara.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited sharing my wisdom and supporting other women through this. Yeah.
Amazing. And, I want to start off by thanking you for doing what you do. I think it's really wonderful to have people who are providing light for others who are maybe in a darker path and need that illumination or guidance. And all those people who are looking for you, I'm glad they're finding you. So thank you for doing what you do.
Yes, I had no idea what was wrong with me back in 2006. I was overwhelmed, frustrated, lots of symptoms like IBS, stomach issues, anxiety, depression, insomnia, chronic fatigue. And I happened to connect with the right health practitioner, and my journey was quite deep. That took me from 2006 to, I would say, to the middle of 2025 when I had my spiritual awakening. And I was kind of really like, I had no idea this is what was underneath all the symptoms I had. I just thought it was just being strong. This was how a woman was supposed to be. And what I learned was quite amazing.
And I'm really excited to get into everything and what you learned. But before we begin, Nina, we actually have a couple traditions here on our podcast. I like to start
Okay.
off every podcast with meditation. So if you
Sure.
don't mind, it's
Of course
super
not.
easy. I promise. It's really quick.
Okay.
All you have to do is breathe in love. So we're gonna inhale love, 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 and then we're gonna exhale gratitude. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And we do this to help us get grounded and be present for this conversation. So thank you for being here.
Beautiful.
Another tradition that we have is we actually have our previous guest leave you a message. So they don't know who you are, they didn't know what you're going to be talking about. They left you a message. So this message is for you. If for whatever
Okay.
reason it doesn't land, hopefully it lands for one
Okay.
of the listeners today.
Exciting.
But their message for you is don't give up, don't lose heart, just keep pressing on. So hopefully that resonates, and I will be asking you to leave a message for the next guest as well, and
Ooh,
we'll
okay.
hopefully see how it goes for them. So you
Oh,
started your healing journey. Sorry,
oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
you started your own healing journey in '06. You mentioned before
That's
nervous
correct. Yeah.
system work,
2000.
and yeah, behind before nervous system work and somatic awareness were words that most people were using. What did healing even look like to you back then before you had the language for it?
What it looked like, I was going to one doctor to another. I was going to different modalities, different naturopath doctors or different modalities, and workshops. I was going to workshops. I was reading. I was searching what was wrong with me, but not really getting the answers. And the medical system, and I worked for them 20 years as well, I call it a symptom patcher, meaning they would take a symptom and they would give you another pill,
Mm.
which I was having a very sensitive nervous system. Wouldn't do very well on medication. My stomach would start acting up. I just didn't do too well with it. I have a lot of symptoms with the symptom patcher uphill, I call it.
And do you feel like the this symptom patching was this making things worse for you, or was it help, or was it just not helping?
I was in such chronic overwhelm. Like I kind of look back at sometimes, I would say my body was in a state of emergency, state of fear. I lived in a state of fear all the time. It was like 911 all the time. Now I look back at it That's how severe chronic. So medication, yes, it worked for some time, but it kept me stuck. Like it still kept me stuck. I could still function, but it wasn't the kind of function that how I function today. I functioned, I got out of bed, I made it to work, but I didn't know how I made it to work. It was like still autopilot. I was on autopilot.
What was a sign for you that you realized that you had to do something else, that it just wasn't enough, what the path that you were on?
Well, I was always searching. And in 2006, I think it was like, when they say there's the student's ready and the teacher appears, I was looking and someone guided me towards this health practitioner. And, it was a friend and it was her cousin who was the health practitioner. And all I know is I went and showed up, and that's where my journey began in 2006.
What was it about this practitioner that helped open up maybe the new possibilities of different options or different healing methods?
Mhm. Okay. Well, one was she was also the same nationality as me. Okay. That was one. And, she was a woman who looked at treating other women, and her language was different. So I bought prior to the appointment, blood work I had, which is, took all that. And then I also took all the stuff I was taking, any naturopathic medication, anything I was taking. So that was one of them. And I think what really made me believe one was she says some things that really resonate. You will become symptom free, but it's going to be a long journey. And then she said some other things. Don't go anywhere else. If I want you to go anywhere else, I will let you know. If I don't feel I can support you, I will let you know. And then she says some other things like, you'll live the life you want. Your children will become like you. You'll find your soul purpose. And at the time, I was just so fixated on getting symptom free. And what she had to say
Now,
just really resonated with me. And I guess I got to the point where I was like, I was willing to do anything to get better. That's it. I was just at the point where I don't care how long this journey was. I didn't know it was going to be 18 years, but, and there was times I still felt good. It wasn't like a full blown 18 years where I felt miserable all the time, but it was ebbs and flows. So I don't know. Like they said, when the students ready, teacher appears. And I really believe that's what happened to me.
I think you said somewhere that the thread that matters most is the difference between healing as becoming someone new versus healing as remembering who you were before the world told you to be someone else. When did you first feel that distinction click for you personally?
That I wasn't operating from who I really was. So I recall, I said to her one, I think it was a couple of years into my journey versus that, I think I've married the wrong man. Okay. Then I said to her, what am I doing here? She says, well, I'm helping you become the real you. And I was really dumbfounded because I still hadn't connected all the dots to why I was having all the symptoms, why, the journey itself. And that's when I started connecting the dots. Oh, okay. So she's helping me become the real you, because underneath all the symptoms was the hidden Nina. Without all that, the symptoms were there's a root to the symptoms, which we can explore later.
Yeah. So I think over functioning, the term you use, gets praised.
Mhm.
It looks like competence, reliability, strength. How do they do that? How do you do it all? What was that moment you realized that everything that people were complimenting you on was actually costing you or yourself?
I think it was when I started doing the work. When I got more into the work, I started doing shifts within my work. I started feeling my emotions because that was something that was never taught to me as a child. Was feeling emotions and then getting to where to come from, the programming, the patterns. Once I started diving into those things and then trying to create having effective boundaries around people, that's when I noticed that some people started just leaving my life. Others started questioning me. Like I said, I questioned, I was married to the wrong man. And even, things started shifting in my marriage or the person I was becoming. That's when I started having more aha moments.
So when talk to me a little bit about the boundary setting. When someone sets boundaries, what are some good things to be looking out for versus the bad react like a good reaction versus a bad reaction? And can you like show me an example, something that maybe the audience can be aware of, like when I draw a boundary, this is a good reaction versus a bad one.
Okay. So boundaries, I grew up having no boundaries. I was never taught boundaries. So when I say boundaries, my belief was bound speaking someone the truth, telling them that's what you said or what you did or whatever the situation was wrong. In my body, I always felt it was wrong. Okay. So boundaries actually, when I started doing the work, boundaries are self-love. They're not selfish. They're actually a reflection of self-respect for each other person, not just for yourself, but for the other person as well. So you're not overstepping on the things they value in their life, and you're also protecting what you value in your life. An example could be, I always had a hard time now that I always had a hard time speaking my truth. And that is kind of a boundary as well, because you keep doing what people tell you to do. It's like autopilot. I'm not going to say anything. And now I find, a boundary that really had to implement for myself is, as I'm growing in business or other parts of my life, I don't have the same capacity anymore. Before I was available to people all the time. I find, not in a selfish way, it's not I don't care about you or I don't want to talk to you. It's just that I don't have the same space and capacity for all that. So again, boundaries are self-love for both people and respect.
Is there a difference with how you communicate a boundary depending on who you're talking to, or is it the same with everyone?
It all depends on your relationship, of course. In your life, one boundary I had to set with somebody, was, I couldn't communicate as frequently as we used to. I had to say, what, I'm glad we keep connected, but I feel that at this time I don't have the capacity for frequent conversations. Okay. So
Mm,
that's one boundary. Okay. I
okay.
can't really think of anything else, but boundaries, like I said, they're just kind of keeping the space, we're in that space together without overstepping each other's life situations.
Mm,
So some people
okay.
have, they're busy all day, some people have a job where they can talk or they can get away with it. And I've got kind of a work where I don't have that space or capacity anymore. So yeah,
Yeah.
different boundaries for different situations, like work. A lot of people work from home now, and still that has to be communicated a boundary. I've really got work to do. Let's chat after 6 o'clock or whatever on the weekend, and I have different boundaries with my children, you know? So
Yeah.
yeah, they are different boundaries in the workplace, different boundaries with friendships, everywhere really. But they're spoken in a way that's not harsh. It's not selfish.
Mm,
It's nice, and I think you only can learn that once you get connected with all your feelings and process them.
yeah.
And once you connect your emotions and know how to process them and know where they came from, connect the dots. Where did I first feel that emotion? Who said that in my life? What beliefs do I have around that? Once you start clearing that up and it's deeper and deeper, like you'd be shocked. Like you think the journey ends, it never does end.
No. Yeah. No, it's always ongoing.
100%.
Going back to your healing, you talked about the moment you realized your symptoms were messengers and not problems. What was your body trying to tell you, and how long had you been talking over it?
Oh my God. I've been talking over it like when I did the work and I really went deep, like, it started in childhood, but as an adult, it was there. Okay. So when I really I was noticing it even before 2006. Okay. It was there, the stomach problems, the anxiety, the depression, but it was never diagnosed. Like it wasn't diagnosed. Okay. Even with the medical system,
Mm.
it wasn't diagnosed. It was like she's tired. And so basically, going back to your question, I would say when I started working the practitioner in 2006, that's when everything started connecting. The symptoms that I was not, they were there. I just don't know what was causing them. So I had all this overwhelm. I was just doing too much. I was go, go, go. I didn't know how to I didn't know how to sit with myself. When I say sit with yourself, like silence, I was always distracting. Distracting
Mhm.
as watching TV, going to the gym, texting, shopping. Shopping was big for me. So overspending.
Mm, yeah.
So it really got clear to me when I started working with a practitioner and started connecting the dots and through journalizing that this is what I was doing. And that's when those symptoms actually started to pop out and make sense. Because now I started practicing this new way of being, right? So
Mhm.
yeah. So that was hard because my body had never felt those emotions. They were so suppressed deep in my. People don't realize this, that emotions that are not felt, we suppress them into our body, like into our bones and tissues, everywhere. They come out in certain ways. Like they come out. They're in our body, and then we just suppress them, and that's where the symptoms come from. So some people, it can look different. Some people have eczema or some sort of rashes or an autoimmune disease. I had symptoms, anxiety, depression, and what else? Insomnia, stomach issues. So mine came out through different. Some people have migraines. There's so many symptoms that people have, and they don't
Yeah.
know how to work through them. So now, even if I have a headache, which I'm so blessed, I haven't had a headache for so many years, I can't count, over 10 years. I can actually, something does feel off by the end of the day. What did I do today? Who did I talk to? What did I eat today? So I can actually go deep and do the introspect work myself
Yeah.
and get through that symptom. For example, yesterday, I've been processing something for the last number of years because you think, and this is interesting. So 2 years I've been processing something. I've been in connection with a friendship. And it was
Mhm.
interesting. I was doing certain things like, why is this the way it is? And what I learned was I had anxious attachment and I had no idea. This person had to come into my life. Look, this is 18 years after my journey. And I thought I healed it all. This person had to come in my life to show me, mirror to me, because relationships are a mirror into our unhealed wounds or parts of ourselves we haven't healed. And this person came to show me, mirror that I had anxious attachment style. So over the last 2 months, I've been actually 2 years, this back and forth, to finally realize this summer I had an anxious attachment, which I've healed and become aware of. But the last few days, I've been processing it more. And I was like, oh, I'm feeling nauseous. I don't have an appetite. So, the next morning, like this morning, I was a bit run down. I'm like, oh, that's why. So I'm able to now to pinpoint where the symptoms are coming from, what happened, what am I thinking about?
That's great that you're able to do that now, but what does that look like for someone who is not able to listen to those messages or aware that they're even talking over them?
Well, then they're living in a state like I did. They're living in overwhelm, like I said, they're just not feeling and they don't know how. So they're going to doctor, and doctors are giving them pills or antidepressants, depending on who the doctor is. Like I said, I was even diagnosed with depression until I started doing the
Yeah.
work in 2006. Okay. That's when my depression and anxiety came through more, right? Because I'd suppressed it so deep. So someone who doesn't know, they're just going to have these symptoms and not know. And some people don't even, and as women, we try to keep everything together. We try to keep everything together, the
Yeah.
kids, the house, the husband, you name it. Okay. We don't know how to live in our
Yeah.
bodies. And that was a huge shift for me because I was living in the mind. Okay. So to get out of the mind and live in the body, like, you did that a few minute meditation, that was very, very hard for me because I never learned. I was always living autopilot. I was living outside of my body. So, women are more feeling. I'm not saying men aren't, but I'm just saying, we're more feeling. So people that have the symptoms, they don't know because they're living outside their body. Okay. They're
Mm.
not really feeling. So once you get into the feeling of it, then they can start healing. Feeling is healing. But the women that don't know, they're just running on empty. They're trying different things, they're trying different diets, they're reading that book, they're going to that workshop, which I did all, I did that all as well.
Yeah.
They're getting little quick fixes, which I did too. I got little quick fixes along the way to keep me stable for 4 or 5 months, and then it was worse when I actually came out of it.
So I think you would agree that self-abandonment hides in plain sight. Can you give me an example of what that looks like? Something so small most women wouldn't even flag it as self-abandonment, maybe?
So first, looking back on my own situation and women in general, they do for everybody else, but for themselves. They feel They have so many responsibility. Take the kids to school, get their lunches ready, and they don't know how to ask for help. Okay, so they're just running on empty, and that's self abandonment. They don't do things for themselves. And even when they do, they have so much guilt behind it. And guilt is one of the worst emotions you can have
How
that I
how do
learned
you
by you. Yeah.
yeah, how do you handle that? Like, just as an example, if my partner is doing a lot for me, for example, and maybe when they express or ask for help, it's already a frustration at that point. How do you navigate that to make sure that they don't feel abandoned and they know that they're also going to be taken care of?
Hmm. Can you clarify that question again for me?
Sure. So when someone is frustrated with feeling like they're the only ones doing something or they're the ones actively taking care of things,
Mhm.
by the time they express it or communicate it, it can end up sounding or looking like frustration, right? So my question is, what are some of the things that I as a partner could do that are reassuring to make sure my partner is supported as well?
Interesting question. So, looking at women, we have a hard time asking for help, okay? And being vulnerable. That's huge. So, as a man, you could just God, that's I've never been asked that question. You can you can ask. I think it's very ask. Do you need support in something? Or
Yeah.
use example for your partners. Hey, I've seen you seem like you're really overwhelmed, or you might be doing too much. Just ask. Do you need help with something? I mean, I wish someone had asked me, considering the overwhelmed I was. I was in hospitals, I was in doctors. No one ever asked me. And it could be a
Yeah.
cultural thing, I think it was, but I think the world has really, really shifted. I think just being aware, like, if you're self-aware, I think this is if my partner was self-aware, then they would be able to say, "I see this," but my partner wasn't self-aware, so no one to blame. My partner wasn't self-aware as well, so they never knew
Yeah.
how to ask. But if someone is self-aware, then they can ask, right? So it kinda goes in 2 different ways.
Yeah. I mean, the reason I asked was just to prove that we have to, as partners, also be aware of these things and know because it's not just, one person team, it's a two-person team. And you want to make sure that everyone hears, hey, it would have been nice to hear it, right? Like, hey, it would have been nice to get that question, just like you said. So, I'm just passing it on because I do have majority male audience. So I want to make sure that the men who are listening are aware and get that information and know to kind of wake up a little bit here. So
Mhm.
I know that your work draws a line between boundaries built from fear and boundaries built from self respect. How can a woman tell which one she's actually operating from, and in the moment she's setting that boundary? Like, how can she tell where she's at and how she's doing it in that moment?
Mm. And, I think for me is when a woman is doing it for self-respect or about, I think it's a combination of both. And a woman really needs to know her feelings. Like, I know before I would ask for help. Can you help me out? But I didn't know how to communicate that. So once a woman knows how to feel her emotions and go deep within herself, like I talked about emotions, and I'm absolutely sure that if you don't know how to feel your emotions, there's no way you can communicate that to your partner as a woman.
Mhm.
I know men have a different way of, yeah, of different way of sharing their thoughts, but we're more feeling. So if we don't know how to feel our emotion, hasn't been taught to us because everybody's programming is different. Because a lot of the stuff that all of it mostly, I would say, n- over 95%, what came from childhood issues.
What when you're saying know how to feel our emotions, what are some of the things that I can do to learn how to feel?
Some of the things you can learn how to journalizing. So bring your things, which is in your subconscious mind, bring them on paper. That was the hardest for me to do. So whatever you're feeling that day, write it down. Could be anything. Write it down. Okay. Write it on paper. And and then share it with your coach or whatever. Someone who can see your blind spots. Or just sitting. Meditation is great too. I was at no point of because I had so much heal at that point in 2006. I was so overwhelmed and frustrated with all those health issues. I couldn't meditate. Sitting with yourself is another way of communicating with yourself. because your subconscious takes it on, it starts processing, and the next day, if you're wise to listen, it will show up after you sleep. The amount of processing your subconscious does at night is just
Mhm.
amazing. I see it in myself still.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to self-reflect a lot before I go to bed. I'm always thinking a lot of the bigger thoughts right before bed.
I love
Mm,
it.
I love
I
I
love
love
it.
that example. I also love that example of journaling. It actually reminded me of a time when I used to do that a lot. I stopped since, maybe I should start again, but I remember writing things down and then reading things years later and being like, "What the heck was I doing? Why was I doing that?" Or, "Why did I think that was a good thing?" When in reality, obviously, things are clearer when you're looking back, but yeah, you could probably see
Yeah, so you
things
just
or
had
others. Sorry?
yeah, so you've had a period of growth, right? That's what
Mhm.
happened. Yeah. So,
Hopefully,
yeah, I
hopefully you
know
have a period of growth. It would be a
100%.
shame
If
if
you
you.
read something over, it resonates differently. I'm reading on The Power of Now after years. Someone was talking about it, and I'm reading it. I'm like, oh my God, I actually get this. I had so many aha moments. And I said, books are great. And I talked about it. And that raises awareness to go forward if we're on the self growth journey. But I also noticed, like, well, when I started reading The Power of Now and Toast Now, I really get it. So can you imagine the people that are picking this book up? They have no idea. I know. I looked at it now. I'm like, oh my God, this makes
Yeah,
so much sense. I can relate to it 100% now than I did like, 10 years ago.
yeah, it's true.
Hmm.
You have a community and you named it Becoming You, but earlier you framed healing as remembering, not becoming. So was that like a was that name tension intentional?
Yeah. So that is my meetup group that I
Mhm.
operate on the meetup site, which operates in states and Canada. So I have a meetup group on there. Yeah. So people, women that want to join me every Wednesday from 7 to 8 Pacific Standard Time. I have a 1 hour meetup where women join me and I share about my journey. They can ask questions and we just kind of dive in deep and what they're experiencing. And we have a conversation around it.
Okay. What about that community? What's the difference between remembering who you are and becoming who you are? Is kind of I think where I was leaning on with the name of
Mm.
that community.
Remembering who you are, remembering like the person you were before, and then slowly making changes within yourself, and then becoming you, the real person that God, universe created in the first place. Because I truly feel, remembering back, that this was a person I was supposed to be
Mhm.
if I didn't have all those belief systems and programming, and I had known how to feel emotion. If I had a normal childhood, and I know none of us do, we all, our parents did the best for us. There's no blame here. If that had
Yeah.
happened, I would have been the real person. I would be there. So I
Yeah.
help women remember and then becoming you. So slowly as you heal, you become you, the real you. And that's a process. It takes time. Like I said, I'm still learning, but I would say I've passed that part where I'm no longer the person I used to be. Even I try to force myself to fit in somewhere, my stomach, because I'm so sensitive somatically, and I've done that so much of that deep healing work. My stomach will start to I'll get nauseous. Literally, there was a
Mm.
time just recently I was processing something. I was driving. Literally, I thought I wanted to pull over and throw up. I'm like, why am I feeling
Oof.
this? And when I got home, I go, yeah, I just connected some dots to a situation.
Wow.
Yeah,
Can we
it's
talk a
amazing work.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about what it actually like what you had to what did it actually take you to stop managing everyone else's emotions and start listening to your own? And was there a specific relationship where you had to practice that first?
Wow, like that. I had to practice it with my in my marriage. When that in 2009, I was working with their health coach 2006, and it was 2009 that I said to her, I said, I feel like I married the wrong person. She says, just sit with that for a while. So I just sat with that.
And what did it take you like was it just easy for you to figure that out on your own, like,
No, so then what
afterwards,
happened
or
in 2011, we separated. I was trying to have boundaries in my relationship. I wanted my partner to see where I was coming from. And, he just couldn't. He wasn't at that place. I was the one who was being self aware, and my partner wasn't there yet. So
Mm,
I tried implementing a boundary the best I could. And maybe I could have communicated differently. I don't know. I did the best I knew at the time because I was still only 3 years into my journey of my healing. And there was so much to still look underneath and heal. So I started implementing boundaries that he just couldn't get because, when you're used to having a person a certain way, they expect you to be that. So it kind of started in 2011 when we separated, where I tried to implement the boundaries and it was just like, no. And that's when we separated.
for naturopathic medicine or nervous system work or somatic awareness, those are all kind of like a wide range of modalities. Was there one
Mhm,
that
mhm.
cracked was there one that cracked something open that others didn't?
Well, that's a really good question because I often don't talk about I don't talk about the modality. So I had done other quick fixes. There's naturopathic doctors that give you, they give you St. John's wort or they give you probiotics. Nothing wrong with those things. They're still temporary quick fixes. Okay. You still have to keep taking those meds. Well, then you might as well keep taking the antidepressant, right? They're still a form of medication, right? They're okay for
Yeah.
short term to get you over the hump, but they don't address the underlying program. Okay. So in 2006, I worked with it's a modality called biotherapeutic drainage.
Mm,
Okay. So, and the modality works on a cellular level. So basically what it does is they look at the cellular terrain. Okay. Meaning cellular, like where did it all come from in your cells? Because we are all cells. Okay.
yeah.
And then, so basically, what I would do, so yeah, so the other naturopathic that would give you medication, nothing would heal. This biotherapeutic drainage I did was I had to go back only once a month unless it was an absolute emergency. So I was given a set of remedies, and these remedies are plant based. They're called Unda remedies. Okay. So there was 3 or 4 of them every month, and I would have to put them in water. So what they basically do, like first, it was just for the first year or 2 years was to stabilize my nervous system, to get it healthy again, to get that soil, she called it, healthy. Okay. So you're not overwhelmed. Then the remedies switched up based on my symptoms. So symptoms I had were suppressed. So she had to bring them to the surface. It is one modality. It can be done differently. So I just happened to bump into that modality. So it's getting deep in those cellulars to bring up those symptoms. So when those symptoms came up, I'd be like, what's going on? So then I would go back after a month, my remedies are finished, and we talk about it. And then she would ask questions. Actually, the work was so deep that she wouldn't ask too many questions. She would say a little statement here and there. Like I said, when she said, I'm helping you become the real you. So
Yeah.
those remedies were going deep into my cells and bringing things up. So something came up, I would have to process it and kind of connect the dots where it came from my childhood. And what was the belief around it? Was there a story I had formed around it? What was the core programming? What was I holding on in my body? And that
Yeah.
came up. And that was a really difficult part because things were so suppressed on a mental and physically and mentally, that
Mhm.
everything had to come out. And that was really hard because I had suppressed it since I was a child. So everything, for example, the anxiety got worse, because energetically, we're energetic bodies. So I had to release. Okay. That was the
Yeah.
journey. That's why the journey was so long. So I actually had 3 healing crises during the gist of my program
Mhm.
for that 18 years I did the work. So it was really, really deep work. It can be done in a different way. I'm sure it can be done through coaching. Of course, I did the journalizing and I did sitting with my emotions and all that. I did all that. And I went to other workshops she would recommend. I did other energy work as well, Reiki, hypnosis. I did all that along my journey as well.
Yeah.
But like I said, that was a modality I happened to bump in, but it can be done differently through coaching and asking right questions. So the way
Mhm.
I work is I would ask my client to write me a story. Write me a story, like when they're here. first of all, of course, what's causing overwhelm. But I would say, okay, go back into your life, write me everything what you know about your childhood until now. Okay. And because of the work I've done and also me being highly intuitive, I'm able to pick up from their story. I'm able to pick up blind spots. And I'm not gonna right away say, well, this happened, tell them the answers. I'm gonna say, oh, okay, this is interesting. Can you tell me what you felt here? And then we can go underneath that emotion. And then the programming comes out. And then we can create those boundaries. So they can release that emotion and then the underlying programming, and then they can go on from a different way of relating with that situation or person.
So I want to ask about this programming or this underlying programming. What's the unconscious conditioning that you see the most underneath over functioning? And where do you think that programming gets installed?
For a woman, and
Yes.
it's not just cultural woman, like a woman of different cultures. I think it's there that women think they have to do it all. They think they have to do it all. Even if they're
Yeah.
tired and they think they have to do it all. And I think I don't know where that got embedded. Maybe got embedded with the feminine movement. I don't know that they have to do it all. Because looking back, my mom didn't do it all. I look back, my parents used to come from work when I was 12 or 13 or in their teens. Mom would do something else and my dad would warm up dinner or whatever. They collaborated and did things together. And I don't know where I picked it up. Maybe I picked it up. I don't know where I picked it up. I could have picked it up through just society, friendships. I don't know, but I picked it up somewhere.
Yeah, I think we can all blame the patriarch for that one.
Yeah.
I know you said feminism, but to me, I think it's more of like the patriarchy just kind of tends to influence a lot on there, and I think it's a negative influence, obviously. But expecting or having those expectations are unreal because growing up, even my mom, she was a stay-at-home mom
Mhm.
and we grew up very traditional. But even then, the women in my family are pushed to not just go to work, not just do this, but like, hey, you got to serve your uncles, you got to serve your dad, you got to serve, the boys first. You got to give the boys the meal first. And I think it's just something that's engraved from like generations worth of maybe some of it's probably not unknowing. Some of it is knowing,
Yeah.
some of it is unknowingly. And like my mom's a feminist, but still holds up to that traditional, like, you got to serve the men first, And so in a way, it's like contradictory there. And it does, I think, depend on your culture and what examples you have that you see. And, I just think
Yeah.
it's interesting. Yeah. Interesting stuff.
I could relate to
So,
that. I remember my mom would say, don't bother your brother. You can take
yes.
care of it. I remember that. Just came out. Yeah. Your brother can do it. Your brother, like he could be working. He's got too much on his plate. But what about us? So it was interesting how you said that. Yeah, I could relate to that. My mama, she even said it, you know, like even the last five, she should say, your brother's got too much on his plate. Don't bother him. Just do it yourself. Yeah. But I find my brother loves to help me. I ask him for something, any kind of advice. He loves to help me. I love it. And I have two boys. So I ask them, it's like, I love this.
Yeah. I think the problem with men is we try to fix things all the time and we're fixers. We just like to find a solution or give you a solution rather than assist or help you find your way to get that solution yourself. So
And
I
that could
think
be a
that's,
whole another topic itself there because we women don't know. We want to be, what do you call it? I think we've been told we want to do it all. We want to be independent, including myself, right? I didn't know how to be a feminine woman to ask for help. It was looked down upon, and that could be a whole different topic itself, right? But yeah, it's so important what we know. Yeah, men are fixers. We know that. How to communicate that towards the opposite sex.
yeah, definitely. Is there a difference you think with how, specifically talking about over functioning, is there a difference between women who are mothers versus women who aren't?
It's an interesting question. Well, as mothers, we do have a lot more on our plate. We do. No, there's women that still can be over functioning because if you're not a mother, then you're gonna have other hobbies, right? You're gonna have other things on your life. that you're going
Yeah.
to be doing. You may be running a business. You could be, there could be other things that could be involved in running some sort of a group or volunteering. So they're still not getting to why they're feeling the overwhelm. So people could say, well, yeah, I thought, I recently had someone, I shared an example that I know, and she was saying, I'm always overwhelmed, Nina. And I said, oh, okay. I said, are you open to sharing? And she goes, yes. But she goes, I know the reasons for why I'm feeling this way. I said, okay, sure. But are you willing to share? And she did. And what I learned was she was divorced at an early age. She had two young daughters, and that they've grown up and on their own. And she's at home, and she's similar in her 50s, and she's still in a way she described. I've got the house to take care of. I have my father I'm looking after, and I have some health issues. And I said, okay. And
Mm.
so what I already popped right away, I need to know where she got that from, because it sounds like she's going, and not looking after herself. That was a
Yeah.
kind of a message, she's feeling overwhelmed. There's something underneath there, the overwhelm. And it could be, it's definitely coming back from somewhere from her childhood. And we don't know is it from her, like, way she was parented from her mom? Like, I know a
Hmm.
lot of my stuff came from my dad, because my dad was the masculine. Okay. So he's the one who
Hmm.
parented me and my sister.
Hmm.
And so looking back, so it's something there, and I will have a deeper call with her, but I'm sure it's something to do with her childhood that she's still carrying on in her adulthood, and that
Hmm.
overwhelm is coming through in different ways for her
So you mentioned, or you touched on her age a little bit. You said in her 50s. Do you
in her
think
50s.
that
Yeah.
do you think it's ever too late to unlearn this unfunctioning role, this overfunctioning role? Like, is it ever, like, is it easier based on your age? Does it look different depending on where you are in life?
So taking back to where I was in my almost close to in my late 30s when I started this journey. Okay. And
Hmm.
there's parts of me didn't want to do it because it was hard work. I didn't. It was a huge commitment, but I was like, no, I have to do this. And then my mentor would say, if you don't do this now, Nina, it's going to be that much harder in your 60s and 70s. Okay. And I'm also a caregiver on the side. So I see a lot. And having worked in healthcare, it is harder when you get older. But on that note, if you're open to wanting, you may not do the whole journey, but not everybody needs a whole journey. Doesn't need that much work. Some people just may need a certain amount of help, and they can able to work through themselves in a few months or a few years on their own, because it's not, it could take time, right? So I don't think it really matters. It
Yeah.
just has to be, are you open? Are you willing to want to learn, willing to move forward and learn different things so you can heal and communicate differently?
Yeah. What's the hardest boundary you've ever had to hold? One that
Oh
tested
boy.
whether it came from, yeah, like one that tested you basically.
Hardest boundary. Boy. I would say there was one hard, it's like a practice. So when you first start it, it's hard. Like just getting your nerve to say no. I remember someone asked me to do something, and I said, why did you get so and so to pick it up? And that was
Yeah.
hard. I'll tell you hard. This one's going to be shocking. So I remember someone asking me to be somewhere that I couldn't, and I was really not feeling well. And it was a family member. And when I said, no, I'm sorry, I will not be able to make it, this person actually hung up the phone on me, hung up
Oh
the phone.
wow.
That, because they never heard me say no they never had me say, no, I can't do it. I actually didn't end up
Yeah.
going because I was so, so sick. But yeah, that was the first time I did it. And they said no. And then I'm like, I had so much fear because I grew up with a lot of fear, and that continued in adulthood, in my marriage, everywhere, that fear state. So that was the first start of it. And then I slowly started doing more boundaries. I'm like, well, they're not going to kill me, because I had a lot of fear. They're not going to kill me. They can't do anything to me, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I started getting stronger. That muscle, it's a muscle. The muscle starts getting stronger and stronger and stronger. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
What is there a woman in your community whose transformation inspired you, maybe surprised you, motivated you to start really focusing on this work?
Well, it was like I said, when I went and did this work, the healing work,
Hmm.
one thing she said was, you'll find your soul purpose. So when I did my divorce coaching, which was around, oh God, I think it was 2019 or 2020, and I did that for 2 years. And then I learned that I had more healing to do. Okay.
Mm,
There's no way I still had healing to do. So there's no way I could do that coaching. So I think what inspired me was after my third healing crisis, which was around COVID, where I
yeah.
collapsed. I hit rock bottom again because there's still more to heal that I had known. That's when I really started feeling my emotions. Yeah. Because if you start feeling emotions, you're going to start healing. Healing is feeling 100%. Okay. So I would say what really led me to decide to do this work was the work I had done myself. But I was also in so much denial as well. No, I can't go out and do this. What makes me be a coach? But I had
Yeah.
done a certification while I was still
Mm,
healing. So I did go and
yeah.
did, yeah. So I did that. So I was a certified coach as well. But, and then get into that. So it was actually in 2000, end of 2000, about 2025, the calling just got deeper and deeper. Like it just got like, oh, I want to do this. I want to do this. I like, this is what I want to do. You know, I know I can help people. I've done it myself. And everything just started becoming clearer and clearer because there's part of me, there was such a denial I couldn't do it. But then I started using the work I had done on my situations that were coming up. Yeah, you can heal, but then not really apply it to your life. I don't know if that makes sense. So there were certain
Hmm.
situations that came up. I'm like, oh, apply those what I learned. Like you can heal and not apply the work. And that's when everything just it's like the dam broke open. I'm like, oh, I can do this, you know? And this is where all the feeling sensations came in. I'm like, oh my God, I can really and then nausea. I'm like, oh my God, I'm feeling this nausea over this situation. Next day I'm feeling fine because I processed it. So yeah, so the calling just got deeper in 2020, I would say end of 2025. And that's when I ended up hiring a business coach in 2025. And here I am.
Nice.
So it was my own journey that brought me here.
Okay. Is there something you wish you could tell yourself in 2006? Like today's Nina? Talk to 2006 Nina. What would you tell her?
Uh, Definitely, I wish I had more, I didn't have as much resistance because I was in such fear state. Like I said, my body, my cortisol levels were so high that
Yeah.
medical system doesn't talk about. My body was in state of emergency all the time. So anytime I would feel an emotion, I would just I being so much anxiety, right? So I wish I knew when I started doing the work that this was just how it was going to be. I
Mm,
resisted the work so much. It's not even funny. And I wish I could tell the old Nina, I wish and that made it harder. The belief in yes, this is gonna work. Like I'm gonna get better because I had to get, in that it's a homeopathic, modality where they're thinking is you have to get worse before you get better. And that was really hard. So I wish I didn't have that much resistance because I did get to the other side. I did have an amazing coach who would say, you will get to this will end, but we're such in a society, we're looking for a quick fix. I'm like, how long in the back of my mind, I would say all kinds of terrible things about her, like, like you're making me sick. What kind of doctor are you? Right. But now
yeah.
looking back, I just like, I'm glad she encouraged me to stay on the journey and I'm glad I did it. And now I can help other women through it as well. It's not as hard as it. I've also taken up quick stuff from her. And so the modality isn't like journalizing. I think she was very hard on it. She never gave me prompts. She would just say journalize. If you tell me to journalize on something, I would do it. Now I would definitely have prompts for my clients. Okay. This is what we
Mm,
discussed. Can you think I think you need some more clarity on that. Can you journalize that for our next session? And they'll know
mm,
if they've done the homework because they have. That will show through.
yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot of resistance. I think if I can tell my clients this is the way it's gonna go. Some of it's not gonna feel good. I'm here to support you. It's still gonna be hard. People are gonna have resistance, and that's
Yeah.
okay. But I'm there to tell them that I've been through this as well, and try not to resist it. Try to flow with it because it will definitely make it easier.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like sometimes we get impatient and these symptoms were developed throughout years of overfunctioning and it will
Mhm.
require work and time. It won't just be fixed like that. I wish it was, but that's just how spiritual work or light work how it works. You have to face the dark stuff too and kind of go through it. And Thank you for helping people become who they are before the world tells them who they should be. Nina, I used to be a rapper. So I used to rap and freestyle and, do a lot of things that were fun. I'm not going to make you rap, but we do have a segment in our podcast where
Okay.
I
Okay.
draw
Cool.
I draw a card. It has a word on it,
Okay.
and you're gonna freestyle like just whatever comes from your heart when you hear that word. Okay.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Interesting.
So the word that you get is purpose.
Purpose. Purpose. Well, all I can say is having a purpose in life is, and I discovered that through my whole journey. I didn't even know what it was. I was thought, had to have a 9 to 5 job, and having gone through the journey, I feel very grateful and blessed that I actually have a purpose because it makes me get up in the morning. I'm like, wow, I'm so blessed. Like today I wasn't feeling the hottest. I'm like, oh, I can stay in bed 2 hours late or just lie around. So yeah, I think purpose, it's if someone can find their purpose or work through it, God, what can I say? It's just the most amazing feeling in the world.
Thank you. Thank you, Nina, for that. And one last thing before we say goodbye, how can people find you? Where can we contact you to work on us to work on these
Mhm.
overfunctioning symptoms? How can people find you?
Okay. So they can find me under Nina Thiara under Facebook or Instagram, or under, I will have a link shared in this podcast. And I'm offering a 45-minute complimentary clarity call. And there's a brief questionnaire on there. They can fill it out, book a time, and see if, we can, from that, we can see if we're a good fit to work together.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. And if you found yourself curious or need that help or clarity, I highly recommend you take advantage of that generous offer from Nina. So thank you for offering that. I'll make sure I include the link so that people can
Great.
find you. Thank you so much for being here today, Nina. I really appreciate your time and
Thank you.
being present in this conversation. I always end the show by letting the listeners know to or remind them to don't lose faith, lose fear, peace,
Mm.
and let your heart be light. Thank you, everybody.